Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Let's go. Here's a question for you. Oh, I'm sorry. Before I get into our first topic here, I've got an update on blessedbethefruit.org. We now have the map up. I was waiting to get this from Project 2025, the blessedbethefruit.org map. So handmaids, find out which FEMA camp you report to based on your district. This is for single ladies of childbearing age. Yeah. I got the map for Texas specifically. So if you're a handmaid in Texas, even if you don't have your gowns yet, we've got it broken down by districts. There's the Panhandle. We're in the North Texas district. Most of the WBAP area handmaids are going to be reporting to the North Texas district FEMA camp. But there's going to be some that are in the East Texas, and then we have one for Central Texas too, which is going to be kind of right outside of Fort. I think they're going to call it Fort Hood again, right? In that part of the Christo-fascist theocracy, because we're going to return all the Confederate names. I'm just kidding. Anyway, blessedbethefruit.org. If you want to get a good laugh, go check that out. All right, top story of the day, the top question of the day. How many left-wing terror attacks can we have in 1 week? Because the definition of terrorism is violence or intimidation to further a political cause. I know that sounds really reductive, but that's what it is. So when BLM says that we're calling for violence in the streets to protest the injustice that is done, they're calling for violence or intimidation for purposes of a political cause. Oh, so Black Lives Matter now that you know this, isn't this sort of the definition of terrorism? And for all the media outlets that are so concerned about racism for the last couple of years or last decade or last 20 years or so, when you have actual racism staring them right in the face, judging people based solely on the color of their skin, giving them immutable traits that render them better or worse than another group, literally the definition of racism, it's all packed up right in this BLM New York response to the Daniel Penny verdict. Daniel Penny killed Jordan Neely, who was threatening people on the subway. And a couple things you need to remember before I play the audio. Daniel Penny was not acting alone. Daniel Penny was actually being assisted in restraining Jordan Neely by a guy who happens to be black. Oh my goodness. Now in the trial, there were people of color that testified that they were scared of the direct threats that Jordan Neely was making against them. A black woman testified in that regard as well. Now, I believe the black witness that said he wasn't scared of Jordan Neely was the dude that was helping Daniel Penny hold him down. But now that you know like some of this backstory, let me run through a few sound bites here. Because to me, silly old, country bumpkin me, this kind of sounds like call to violence. This kind of sounds like terrorism.
We need some black vigilantes.
That's right.
People want to jump up and choke us and kill us for being loud. How about we do the same when they attempt to oppress us?
Right.
I'm tired.
Now, if you just take his words for the dictionary definition, not this sort of twisted woke version of what he means by them, I actually kind of agree with that. We do need more black vigilantes. We need more people in the black community that are out there fighting crime, like literally fighting crime, not just calling the cops or not just posting about it on Twitter. But we need some guys that are willing to. It would have been nice if someone got on the bus or the subway and started threatening people. And if Daniel Penny had been a black fellow, that'd be just fine with me. If there's a black guy who restrained another black guy, accidental death. Yeah. Actually, I kind of agree with that. I like the sound of that. But that's not what he means. He sees everything through the prism of race. This is what a racist does. And it's okay for these people to exist. It's just they're wrong. Yeah, we need more black. By the way, his name's Hawk Newsom. Is that like Hawk Tua? Is that what that? Is that something? Oh, that's different. Hawk Newsom. Another one. I didn't get her name. She was with the Black Lives Matter New York. There's a nice little crowd around her. It is now nighttime. It's last night. We got the Daniel Penny final verdict yesterday morning. So last night they went around chanting in the streets and making a big fuss. But the edits here, my beep is in the shop, so I had to use the gas box again. Sorry about that.
Went to this trial. I watched the white people. I watched the non-black POCs. All say they were scared of Jordan. But the black man testified that he was not. So we got a problem. So all the white people here, y'all got work to do.
Got that, white people?
Not a black people business. Go in your neighborhood and do the anti-blackness work in there. I don't need your opinion. I don't need no Marxism. I can read black Marxism on my own. Y'all been reading 275 years in English before we was. Go in your own communities and correct this bull and stay out of our business. Thank you. Because the white people on that jury didn't give a about what they heard on the stand. So white people, y'all got work to do. You better deal with your mothers, your fathers, your brothers, your sisters, your college professors, your bank lenders, your car loaners, all that.
Car loaners? How did they get roped in here, man? Leave my credit agency friends alone. They didn't choke anybody out on the subway. White people, you got work to do. That's right, white people. This is all your fault. All you suburban white people all across America, it's your fault. How? How is it our fault? You have a guy who's going on and threatening black people. Threatening some of those people on the subway that were being threatened were black. Are black. They didn't die. They are black. And so someone was protecting black people. I mean, that's what I see. Isn't that what you see? That's not what AOC sees. That's not a pun. Here's her comment.
He said that he would do it again if necessary, if there was a present threat. What do you make of the comments?
Well, doesn't that, I just feel like that tells us everything. If we do not want violence on our subways, and the point of our justice system is a level of accountability to prevent a person who does not have remorse about taking another person's life. I mean, even people who have engaged in manslaughter or have taken a life accidentally express remorse. And so the fact that a person may express no remorse indicates that there's a risk that it may happen again. And if we do not want to unleash that level of violence, then we should exert a level of accountability to prevent that from happening again.
Essentially said.
So what you need to know in the background here is that this Jordan Neely guy has been arrested 44 times. He has assaulted women 6 times on the New York subway. So, if we're concerned about reducing the level of violence, taking Jordan Neely out certainly accomplishes that. And of course he would do it again. He didn't do anything wrong. He was protecting his fellow man, not based on their race, not even looking at their race. He was just doing the right thing regardless. Oh, no. Daniel Penny's a hero. If you don't think Daniel Penny's a hero, something's wrong with you. You're either ate up with race or you're just so woke you have no idea what's going on. You probably think men can have babies and Hunter Biden's laptop was a Russian plant. Go get your 8th jab. I saw you walking. Dude, there was a guy that was walking down the sidewalk with a mask on today. I just wanted to go shake him. But this all sounds like terrorism here. We need black vigilante justice. We need to start doing things to these people if they don't stop killing us. We're going out in the street and we're yelling Daniel Penny's name. Jordan Neely's name. No justice, no peace. So nice intimidation and call for violence for political purposes. Isn't that literally terrorism? BLM, terrorist group, yes or no? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, we have a couple of news stories that sort of overlap in a weird way, and we're just discussing that. These calls for violence and vigilante justice, I mean, this kind of sounds a little bit like terrorism by the dictionary definition. What do you think? 800-288-9227. But first, we got to check in with Neil Sperry. He is doing the Christmas for Caring Drive. This is the 46th annual holiday fundraiser for their the Denton State Supported Living Center. Neil Sperry, I was hearing you tell a great story about a friend that you had who's no longer with us. Was it BJ from the Denton State Supported Living Center? Yeah, I heard you do it this morning. I just want to share. That's what a gut punch and a good reminder that is. Thank you so much, Neil Sperry. 214-525-2550. We'll check in with him again soon, just to give you some reminders. If it's not convenient right now, you'll have another chance coming up. All right. I wanted to weave this story about Black Lives Matter in with the other big story of the day is, we're all getting all caught up with the guy who shot the United Health CEO. And we have the celebration of that violence. Oh, that's a good thing. So violence, why is that a good thing? Oh, because another political cause you have. So they celebrate violence for, they hate this guy, not because they knew Brian Thompson, the United Health CEO, for political reasons. Evil corporations acting all corporation-y. So now we have actual violence for a political cause. We have BLM, which was doing intimidation, running around in the streets. I mean, if it's not intimidation to be running by businesses in the middle of the night, chanting Jordan Neely, and it's not like they were saying Christmas carols.
What's his name? Jordan Neely. Say his name. Jordan Neely. What's his name? Jordan Neely.
Sounds like intimidation for a political cause. Literally the definition of terrorism. Does that make BLM a terrorist group? Let's ask Jonathan and McKinney. You're next up on WBAP. What do you think?
Hey, enjoy the show. Well, so this feels like a repeat of 2020.
Yep.
It just feels like they're doing the same playbook that they did last time. And I feel like it's it's because the Trump administration's coming in. they want to cause as much chaos, including like you see how they're firing up the wars in the Middle East. It's like all the same playbooks, and I just feel like they're trying to gum up the wheels for the Trump administration coming in. It's like George Floyd 2.0, basically.
Well, look, to be fair, I predicted something like this would happen before the election, and I knew they were praying for a good race riot to happen before November 5th because, man, if anything propelled them and got their base excited in 2020, it was those George Floyd riots. And so I'm not surprised this is happening. I'm a little surprised that it didn't happen a couple months ago.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah,
but they couldn't find one. It's so rare, these situations where you have obviously a white guy killing a black guy under great area circumstances, even though you and I see the tape and we realize he was defending people. There's a gray area for these people in BLM. And, they don't focus on the ones where remember the guy that got killed in, I think it was Fort Walton or Pensacola, and he was an Air Force active duty Air Force soldier, whatever they're called, an airman. And so some cop was responding to a domestic violence call. He he knocked on the wrong door, and when he saw him answer the door with a gun, he immediately shot him. Well, that was a white guy shooting a black guy, but it's not national news. Why? Because we all agree that was a bad shot and there was an injustice here. And so the people in BLM never get to see the story where white people all agree, like, yes, we are siding with the black person over the white person. The white person is definitely in the wrong here. There's going to be no division. There's going to be no questioning. We don't pick sides based on race, and they don't ever get to see that. They only get hyped up on the stories where they think that there's an injustice done, and that's by design, and it's really ugly. It's fomenting racial tensions where there's none deserve to be.
Regardless, and I'll continue to defend all my brothers and sisters, regardless of color, if they're being picked on or anything. I will always step in and help out.
Yeah, and when you do, you're not going to make the news. Don't worry. You're not.
Fine.
Yeah. Black people and white people getting together do not make the news. They can't remind us that we're actually friends in real life and we all belong together pretty damn well. Coming up next, you're going to hear an update on the oil patch from RT Trevino from the Crude Truth podcast. What's happening with your gas prices? Coming up next on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.
What you just said is one of the
Hey there, welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, it's the most wonderful time of the year for Christmas purposes, but also for our friends in the oil patch. With this new incoming administration, it means the 4-year brick that they've been walking around with might just go away. RT Trevino's coming back on the James Show. He has the Crude Truth podcast, works at Pecos Energy, but does his little side project for fun. Tell me, are you guys just popping champagne bottles over there, or is it just back to business as usual?
It's definitely back to business as usual right now, but we're definitely drill, baby, drill right now, James, and thanks for having me back on.
Well, gas prices aren't too bad right now compared to where they've been for most of the last 4 years. Can we expect them to go down a little bit more?
You know, I've been getting that question a lot, and I do think that 250 is a very good number for a national average. We could see it possibly dip a little bit more, but I don't see anything happening in the near future, barring some, horrific act of violence or natural catastrophe around the world.
Let's talk about the reason why we had bad prices for 3 years, and then all of a sudden in this last year they got better.
Well, actually, I think part of that has to do with the good old-fashioned Trump bump. Obviously, it's the opposite way, but the markets were actually predicting a Trump victory about 2 weeks before the actual election. And if you notice, the price has not changed very much since that time. And so we're hovering at about $68, $70 right now, and we're now starting to see those effects at the gasoline pump this week.
Whatever happened to the Keystone XL pipeline? Are we finally going to get that thing built?
You know, I am hearing that could be possibly something that's done on day one, that the Trump administration could get that back on path to getting completed, because that was literally a construction project that was halted the moment President Biden became president back 4 years ago. So that is something that we could do, which would then provide about 800,000 barrels of oil a day from Canada itself.
Wow. How long have we been debating this thing? I feel like we've been talking about it for 15 years.
Probably more since the Obama administration, for sure.
Wow. Yeah. I remember that was an Obama thing. So what about offshore drilling? Are we going to see more of that coming up?
I do expect that to happen. I do expect that to actually be a day one regulation that is deregulated, to where we're going to be able to get back out into the Gulf of Mexico and start drilling and producing oil there. The main thing that actually tips the needle on the price of oil is OPEC and United States offshore drilling. That actually can get the price even lower than we have right now. And if we can get some new permits going, we could actually see a dip in the price.
What effect does the Syria overthrow have in your world?
At this moment in time, and again, that's at this moment, I haven't seen anything major. I am curious to see what will happen when President Trump takes office. Will he put the bans back on Iran that President Biden lifted? And if so, we will see a shortage of oil in the market, and the United States is ready to only produce more if need be.
Is there any reaction from OPEC to Syria or Trump?
At this time, I could not tell one way or the other, or have heard one way or the other if there's any reaction other than I'm sure what everybody's already heard in the media from President Trump via tweeting or on Truth Social.
So what are y'all talking about over on the Crude Truth podcast these days?
Thank you for asking, James. We just had on Carr Ingham, who is the president of the Texas Alliance of Energy Producers, along with former Texas Land Commissioner George P. Bush. And what we were talking about was basically what you and I talked about. Where do we see the Trump administration taking us in 2025 and 2026? Really recommend it.
All right, I have a little fanciful idea here. I think we've talked about this before in the past, when the Russians drilled the Kona borehole, and it's the deepest human beings have ever drilled. Could we get if we got Elon Musk to put up the money or someone to donate the money to do it? Do you know the guys who could beat their record?
Hey, let's do it. That sounds fun. I'd like for Pecos to be a part of it for sure.
Right, because we were the first ones on the moon. We're on the bottom of the ocean first, and now we need to drill through the crust first, or as far as we can. I just don't like them having a record. It seems like something we could do here in Texas, just for funsies, just to show people up. You know, everything's bigger in Texas, even our drill holes.
I like it. Yeah, we can't let Russia beat us.
All right, so where do they find your work outside of WBAP, RT?
Yes, they can definitely go to thecrudetruth.com for any of our episodes, but also for anything oil and gas related, please go to pecoscountryoperating.com.
Thank you very much, RT Trevino on the James Show. Appreciate it, sir.
Thank you.
Always got to check in with the oil patch. Probably the most important industry in Texas and also the world. All right, coming up next, we're going to get back to this crossing of the two stories, with the Black Lives Matter reaction to Daniel Penny verdict, exonerated over the Jordan Neely death, and then also the United Health CEO. The suspect is caught in custody. I'll play you the tiny little soundbite I have of them taking him from the car into the jail. He made a couple of political statements there. Doesn't exactly sound like a right-wing nut job. But listen to this. BLM is blaming white people for Jordan Neely's death. Who do you think bears more responsibility? Jordan Neely, his parents, his family, his community, or random white people who've never met him? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. James Parker here for the Prize Picks app. What did I tell you about the game last night, huh? I told you Dallas was going to get throttled, and you could have made some money off of it, too, just like I did. I knew, Jamar Chase is going to be a cowboy killer every time he comes into town. So just get ready for him to slice and dice his Joe Burrow, too. I enjoyed the game last night. I don't care the guy goofed up the punt and we ended up losing. That's how awesome Prize Picks is. It can salvage an otherwise just terrible season. I'm not happy they lost, but I'm happy my little number went up over here on the Prize Picks app. See what I'm talking about? It's easier than I thought. It's not your traditional fantasy sports leagues. It's a daily fantasy sports app. If you don't know what I mean, download the app. Try it out. With your first $5 play, if you use promo code WBAP, I'm going to get you $50 in cash to play with so you can figure out the system, and then you can be bragging to your friends how awesome you enjoyed the Cowboy game too. Download the Prize Picks app. Use promo code WBAP. That way they know that James Show listeners are awesome and I can keep doing ads for them and make it a little extra money. You can make a little extra money by, I don't know, picking against the Cowboys these days. So check it out. Download the Prize Picks app. Run your game. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP now on FM at 93.3. Neil Sperry donating his time and being an angel himself for the 46th annual holiday charity fundraiser benefiting the residents of the Denton State Supported Living Center. This is your 45th year. What got you into the first year, Neil? No, that's quite all right. I'm wishing we knew someone with garden expertise to help him out. All right. Thank you very much, Neil Sperry. Christmas is for caring. Donate by calling 214-525-2550. All right, let's go to the phones here. This is Nancy in Dallas. You're on WBAP. What do you think?
Hi. Well, what I think is during the last riots, I live right across the street from the Park Mall in Dallas, and on the neighborhood app, they were saying that they were going to come into the Park Cities, and we live in the Park Cities. Well, anyway, I figured I'd go at 11:30. I'd go over to the mall, and it was everything was the parking lot was filled with like an Antifa person and a Black Lives Matter person in the car, and they were taking all the employees out of scurrying them out the door, like a back door, getting them all out because it was said that they were going to go in there and riot and loot. Well, what happens is all of a sudden they all start leaving, like the caravan. They all start moving swiftly. Well, what happened is they had the Collin County SWAT team had come. So there were like 100 cars. So that didn't happen.
Oh, so you're talking about the Parks Mall in Arlington?
Yeah, no, in Dallas.
In Dallas?
Yeah.
Are you talking about North Park Mall? I didn't know there was a Parks Mall in Dallas.
North Park Mall.
Okay, North Park Mall. Okay, because when you said the Parks Mall, I'm like, isn't that like in Arlington?
Yeah. But here, all the neighbors, they had their guns ready because they were going to come into the Park Cities. Everybody was fearful. And me listening to this guy now I have a multicultural family, and hearing this guy, the way he was talking, and threatening, I felt so threatened just from listening to him, from hearing him. And I'm so tired of living that way. I have a sister, 77, that couldn't wear a little Trump hat because afraid that somebody might come up to her because she's got green eyes and she's Caucasian, I'm just so sick of it. I think they owe everybody an apology because nobody was going after them. You know, it's just, I am like over it. It's like, talk to the hand. I don't want to hear shit.
Don't. Nancy, shame on you. She said a bad word. But I like her point, and you know, half of me agrees with what the guy says. We need some black vigilantes. Yeah, you need to police your own community a little better. You have a higher propensity or a higher likelihood of violence in your community. That would be great if y'all got out in the streets and, you know, y'all didn't just leave it up to the cops. But, you know, when you take that idea that we need to get out there and we need to have some vigilantes and we need to fight for our communities, that's cool. So what are you going to do? We're going to take white people down a peg. No. You're so close. You're so close. And that's why it's important that we get the diagnosis right, so we get the right medicine. Because like the lady protester was saying, this is all white people.
Went to this trial. I watched the white people.
Yeah. So if you diagnose the disease wrong, you're going to give the wrong medicine. And so when we're trying to say, you know, like, who's at fault here? Who bears responsibility? Well, you and I would say, well, probably Jordan Neely himself. And then secondly, his parents. We heard from his dad yesterday. Did you notice his dad had a different last name? Yes, dad's last name wasn't Neely. So let's go ahead and extrapolate. I know that this guy probably wasn't part of Jordan Neely's life. Maybe if he had a father who was present, maybe that's a bigger effect on whether or not he has a successful adulthood rather than random white people in Kansas. Maybe if his parents did a better job. Maybe if his extended family did a better job. He wouldn't have been arrested 44 times and still out doing crack or whatever drugs he was on. Maybe if his community, whatever race they may be, the people, his neighbors, his pastor, if he has a pastor, I mean, who are we kidding? Maybe if they actually went to school more than 21 weeks a year. I'm just saying, like, all these people you have to jump over who clearly have a higher influence on the outcome of Jordan Neely's success in adulthood. That will clearly, they have a bigger responsibility. But no, if you walk away with the problem is white people who have never met him, you're not going to solve the problem. 4,000, I did this yesterday, 4,000 black men were murdered in Chicago in the last decade. Only 20% of those murders ever caught a case. Now, in some of them, there's an explanation. The guy was already locked up for another case, so they didn't bring it, or maybe he died before they brought the case. But either way, even with the variables in there, about 3,000 black men were murdered with no justice, with no the punishment for whoever killed them. Shouldn't that be a bigger concern if your name is Black Lives Matter? You got to jump over 3,000 unpunished black murderers to get to Jordan Neely. And if you see the world like BLM sees it, then your solution is going to be wrong. Your solution is, well, we gotta take white people down a peg. If they're just allowed to run around and kill us with no retribution or no justice, then we should kill them. No. If you see the world like us, you and me, not like Black Lives Matter, you see the solution. Maybe he didn't need to take white people down a peg. Maybe he needed a father in his life. Maybe he needed to be, maybe y'all should encourage young black men to go to church a little more often. How many times does this happen where you have a Michael Brown or a Trayvon Martin or an Eric Garner, or now we have a Jordan Neely, and it was the guy who was in church that Sunday? How often does that happen? Do we even know the statistics on that? Do they even ask? No, they don't care about that. It's just a chance to what? Make America look awful? Make black people vote for Democrats? Paint Trumpians and white people as awful? Well, that's ugly. Can we just try, fathers? Can we just try restoring the black family in America? Can we just try and encourage not treating your women like a pincushion and falling in love and getting together and staying together and raising the kids together? Does that really sound awful to have dad at Christmas? Are men that bad? Are we that hated? I know we're worse than a bear. I know we're toxic. But how about we try it? And if I'm wrong, I'll apologize. And y'all can go back to abandoning kids and just ignoring the fact that 70% of this community is born out of wedlock. And maybe that just might have a little more effect than some random potato farmer in Idaho based on the color of his skin. It's kind of sick. It's getting old. It's not helping. And the sooner people see through this, the better. 800-288-9227. Keith Urban, Coming to Dickies Arena October 9th. It's one of our contests. You can text the word ALIVE to 800-288-9227 for your chance to win. ALIVE, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM 93.3. Let's go. You know, you think it'd be a bigger story that whole country got overthrown over the weekend, and it's also in one of the most volatile and consequential parts of the world, you know, sitting on a big pile of oil and right there at the nexus of different worlds. And, you know, there's the whole Islamic issue going on. There's the whole adjacent to Israel issue going on. There's Iraq on the other side. There's ISIS in their backyard. And I am just floored at how little attention this is getting. David Hamilton's coming back on with America's Future series. You know, when it comes to this Syria overthrow, David, I want to hear some discussion from people who know more than me on whether or not this is going to be overall a good thing, replacing Assad. Do you have any idea yet?
Well, yeah, I want to answer that, but first I want to thank you because you are one of the few shows that brings attention to these kinds of issues and some of the other major issues, and you do an outstanding job of keeping these at the forefront, you know, because we tend to focus on, you know, stare at our own navel and worry about what's going on in our little backyard. And this is really important. But yeah, overall, I would say, you know, al-Assad it is a really bad guy. His government was a bad actor. It exported terrorism. It funded terrorism. And it's also a narco state. So his brother, Maher, was the leader, Major General Maher al-Assad, led a really big, they were one of the biggest traffickers of Captagon, which is a synthetic amphetamine. And a lot of people don't hear about that. So they were funding a lot of their evil acts using narcotics. So ultimately getting rid of him, and this is a blow because he was funding Hezbollah and other Iranian-backed terrorist groups. Ultimately, it's good, but you know, that area abhors a vacuum, and you see Israel and the United States trying to do what it can to ensure that ISIS and other bad actors don't take control.
Yeah, and I've read about this drug, Captagon. What is this? Like, is it grown from a plant that's like native to the Middle East? Like, why is Syria all over this?
I'm sorry, not a deep expert on that, but I do know it's something that they've used. It's very, very powerful, cheap to make, and it's highly profitable. So knowing that that's going to be interrupted is always a good thing. It's kind of like fentanyl over here.
Yeah,
that's a good thing. And taking the money out of their pocket is always a good thing. You know, we've got a lot of factions, as you said, that you have to deal with. You know, you've got the Turkish element there. They don't get along with the Kurds. The Kurds are our friends. We've supported them sort of in a half measure.
You're allowed to say that. It just
okay. Well, we need to do a better job with the Kurds because they are our friends, along with the Israelis. And then you've got the Syrian Democratic Forces. You've got, you know, an Islamic group called HTS, which is a bad group, and we need to deal with them. They're very much like the ISIS. I understand President Trump's desire to stay out of this. However, we have some geopolitical interests in the region, and we want stability as much as possible. I don't think we're ever going to have a really nice guy running that place. Nice guys don't survive in that environment. You know, after Saddam Hussein was deposed or killed, you didn't get a nice guy after him. You're not going to do that. But we need you have to have a strong person there, strong leader, but they also have to be sane, and they have to understand that it's in their best interest for us all to get along. That's what's going to be interesting, is finding out what is this transition going to look like. Their new prime minister is talking to the outgoing leaders there. I think they need to get rid of all of the outgoing leaders. None of them should stick around. But what this new administration is going to look like is going to be interesting, and we do need to be engaged in that over the next year or so.
Yeah, and you can see it go backwards. We saw it happen in Cuba. Batista was a terrible world leader, but Fidel Castro turned out to be exponentially worse. And then it can go the other way, where, you know, Iraq isn't, you know, the modicum of great government, but I think they're better off than they were under Saddam Hussein. Would that be a fair assessment?
It's a rough but fair assessment. I say the same thing about the Shah and the theocrats that run the mullahs, the ayatollahs that run Iran.
Right. Shah, not a great guy. Ayatollahs, definitely worse.
Yeah. So the truth is, we can't run everybody else's country, and we can't be involved in all of their internal affairs. But when they're exporting terrorism and they're trying to take over the world, and they're using their oil and their weapons to fund people that want to do harm to the United States and our allies, That's where we have to get involved. I'm with President Trump and some other sort of isolationists in the idea that we don't want to meddle in other people's business, but we have to look out for those who want to take over the world, like Pinky in the Brain, and damage us. And there are actors over there that we have to deal with. Having a presence there, we have bases there. The Russians have bases there. So this is a blow to the Russians. And so this is a good thing to the Russians, unless a worse actor, an ISIS-type group comes in, HTS takes power, and then we're worse off.
All right, tell them about America's Future Series.
We are a radically nonpartisan think tank and speaker series that focuses on U.S. global competitiveness and national security. We host summits and conferences. They're all on our website. Go to americasfutureseries.com. We would love for your people to attend. I want you to come to them. I want you to host and moderate. And also, we do raise money for worthy military causes.
All right, I'm going to go look up Captagon now, see if it's better than that stepped-on trunker crank I get from Garrett.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you very much, David Hamilton, America's Future Series. I appreciate your expertise, sir. Yeah, just World War III. No big deal. Let's talk about some random homeless druggie who died on a subway last year. It's such a weird world we live in. And if you want to know how weird, you know how I'm doing all this blessedbethefruit.org stuff? That joke comes from The Handmaid's Tale, because they say blessed be the fruit in this dystopian, Christo-fascist hellscape future that they have planned. The woman who wrote that book, her name is Margaret Atwood. The book came out in like 1985, and she's getting interviewed all over the place in the media before and since the election. And these people, they just live in this fantasy world where they're scaring the crap out of themselves. They have this delusion that we are headed toward the Handmaid's Tale, where the Christians are about to take over and seize the wombs of all the fertile women, and then they're going to get raped by these high-status men and their beautiful wives. It's the weirdest thing in the world. And I really, help me decide in the next segment, do they really believe this? Or is this some sort of fan fiction that they have? 800-288-9227. You'll hear part of the interview with Margaret Atwood next. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. You know, as us limited government Team Red people, we're always asking for, an end to socialism and for social services and the government to be curtailed back. And it's not that we want people to suffer. It's just that we would prefer to do it through private voluntary charity. And that's exactly what Christmas is for Caring is. So if you're on Team Red, you actually have a special moral onus to be generous in instances like this. Neil Sperry is now hosting the 46th annual holiday charity fundraiser benefiting the residents at Denton State Supported Living Center. And it's these angels, these anonymous people who will never get credit, who will never get the fame or the notice for doing this. These are the real angels in this program, Neil. Two 525-2550. Thank you very much, Neil Sperry. You ever watch The Handmaid's Tale? Are you at least aware it exists? You might have seen the memes floating around your social media. It's the women that are dressed like ketchup bottles. They look like they're wearing a nun habit with the big bonnet on it, except it's red. Let me get everyone caught up if you haven't seen it before, because this show, it cracks me up. It's ridiculous how many liberal bullet points they managed to squeeze into this one show. But it came out in 2017. It's based on a book from 1985 written by Margaret Atwood. You're going to hear from her in a second because now she's getting interviewed all over the media. But don't dismiss it. There's a reason why I have blessedbethefruit.org. It's one of the sayings they have out of this show. When it first came out, the first year, it had 13 Emmy nominations. It won 8 of them. Outstanding drama series. So when you kind of laugh, ha ha ha, they have a show that's about Christian fascists. No, this is their biggest, most promoted show. This is the biggest thing that's ever been on Hulu. And this is getting all kinds of awards, and they love it. And this is a great archetype for what is going on in the minds of some people. Not the majority of people, not even the majority of Team Blue, but these crazy people that have scared themselves and shaved their head, and they think the world's ending, and they're not coming to Christmas. It's because of shows like this. It's because of messaging like this. All kinds of primetime Emmys and Golden Globes and Academy, whatever. So let me tell you a little bit about this. It's set in the future in America, not too distant future, and the Christian fascists take over. And then there's a worldwide infertility problem, which happens because You think I'm making this up? I'm not. There's two reasons why we're having an infertility crisis: a lack of universal health care, lack of health care access, poor health care, and also environmental pollution. I am not making this up. So this leads to the enslavement of fertile women in this place called Gilead, and it's sort of an extremist interpretation of the biblical take that liberals imagine what's in the Bible. It's great, man. So, like, if you are someone who's divorced, then you're an adulteress. You know, divorce isn't recognized under the new Christo-fascist law. And then they have an underground resistance group called Mayday. Wait, where have you heard that from? Mayday. Oh, yeah. Like the communists. Oh, the communists are going to save you from the Christo-fascist. Oh, my God, it's so crazy. The main protagonist character's mom is a feminist activist. The main antagonist wife, Serena, is a conservative activist. So just so you have it straight, this is the summary of the show that I make fun of with Blessed Be the Fruit that these people are acting like is real. American is taken over by radical Christians who own women who are infertile because no one listened to the environmentalists, and also because there's no universal health care. So the evil Christo-fascists sees all the fertile women, dress them like a red nun, forbid them from having a job, owning property, or basic human rights, and then the high-status rich men impregnate them against their will while their beautiful wives hold them down. It's so ridiculous. It's the Jussie Smollett of TV shows. There's just too many fantasy bullet points. You know how Jussie Smollett had the he was attacked by white guys in MAGA hats. They did racial slurs. They said gay slurs. They punched him. They had a noose and they had bleach. It's like not believable. So now you've got all these wrapped into one story, and CBS is calling up this woman and doing interviews with her multiple times over the last month or so. And then a big long feature segment on CBS Saturday this weekend. Like, this is so relevant in modern times. Does this sound like the future that we're about to have in the second Trump administration and the Handmaid's Tale? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. You'll hear from Margaret Atwood next on her CBS interview coming up on The James Show. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. So The Handmaid's Tale, it's a big hit with some of your Team Blue, you know, the people that like to dye their hair, or even, they probably shaved it off by now. But it's adorable in the fact that it almost seems like their fantasy. They act like it's all scary, but it's really, look, I can't decide if these people are serious. Like, do they really think the world is falling into a Christo-fascist theocracy? This is the theme, by the way, if you want to know how scary it is for when the Christians take over. It's a whole series about how scary and awful it will be if this country falls into the hands of the evil fundamentalist Christians. Like, listen to this music. This isn't a Stephen King movie. This isn't like Saw 4 or 8 or whatever we're up to now. This is Handmaid's Tale. This is what happens if the Christians take over. These people love, I don't know if they love scaring themselves or if they're just trying to scare other people. I can't really decide if they believe this, but listen to the writer of the book, Margaret Atwood, was on CBS this Saturday, CBS Saturday Morning. And I'm going to play you just 2 minutes of this interview. And look, the lady interviewing her seems to be on board with it too. The older one is Margaret Atwood. The book came out in 1985, and they're acting like, whoa, this is the blueprint for what's happening now.
Struck a chord after the 2016 election and a promise to end abortion rights.
Why did God?
Although written in the era of another Republican president, Ronald Reagan.
Going crazy.
It seemed less of a possibility then, certainly to some readers and some reviewers who said, don't be silly, this would never happen in the United States. And now they're saying this should not be an instruction manual.
What is that for you to be witnessing?
Well, you know, I would rather have been wrong.
You are wrong.
The choice.
Atwood leans on the lessons of history.
Very different times we're living in.
They're very different times, but all times have been different from what came before.
Oh,
what you do is surf the wave, do not despair, try to have a clear-eyed view of what is going on. A return to civilized speech is in order.
All right, hang on. So far, they're talking about this book that she wrote 30-something years ago. Look how right she is. She is just so right. She made all these predictions all these years ago. And not only is she right, she's even more right than she thought she would be in 1985. She's so right. It's amazing.
And the ability to listen to what other people
keep going
are saying and understand perhaps why they are saying it.
A research skill she learned from her parents, both scientists, who raised her in the outdoors of Ontario.
I therefore grew up more with the biologists than with any kind of writer. And that's why I'm so picky about particulars.
That's why you're so specific about getting things right.
That's a very nice way of putting it.
See, so not only is she right all the time, she's right in these very specific ways. So it's not like she generally got the idea of what the future is going to look like, right? She's right on all these specifics, so right, so meticulous in being right, because her parents are scientists, and that's why it's so amazing. And then what do they say? Like in the second half of the same package, what do they say?
Is part of your, I don't know if it's a drive or a mission,
compulsion. Well, I think I'm interested in the difference between what people say and what they do. I knew a lot of people who had escaped from Europe for one reason or another, so I was very interested in human rights.
We spoke to Atwood twice, in New York before the U.S. election and in Toronto the day after.
So what do you make of our latest news?
She said she was certain of a different outcome.
I'm going to get a lot of inbounds going, boo-hoo, 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 and I'm going to say this is not the end of the world.
In fact, she's looking ahead to her next book adapted for television, a sequel to The Handmaid's Tale entitled The Testaments.
It's about how such regimes fall apart from the inside.
As for her own retirement,
who's retiring?
Please retire the Testaments. All right, so did you notice the first half? She's so right. She's right all the time. She makes these predictions 30 years in the future. It's now starting to become true. She's so meticulous and particular and specific in how right she is. Probably has to do with her parents being scientists. And then in the next breath, they say, "Oh, I was certain that Kamala was going to win the election." So you were wrong? So you can't make predictions about the election that's going to happen on Tuesday, but the stuff that you're predicting 30 years in the future, oh, you're totally right about that. Don't they even realize they undercut themselves? God, you're so right all the time. What about the election? Oh, no, she was wrong about that. Oh, no, she's wrong. Is there one person in America that wants to seize all the fertile wombs of the single women and register them and enslave them and put them in red robes? I mean, that's in nobody's playbook. That's not even in Project 2025. Speaking of which, if you go to blessedbethefruit.org, you can now see the new district maps, our FEMA districts. So ladies, you'll know what camp you have to report to whenever we do the Christian uterine database. It's stupid. It's crazy. Do they really think this is true? Do they really think this is going to happen? Are they just scaring the crap out of themselves for nothing? Or are they just putting on a front so they can they're trying to scare other people? They think that, well, I mean, of course, I don't believe this, but other people will fall for this and they'll vote the way we want them to. And the people, the elites like me, the pigs in Animal Farm, will get more power. I don't know if they really believe this or not. They sound like they do, but it's so out there and not believable. You're a crazy person. You have mental problems if you think we're headed to a Handmaid's Tale or you think that's ever going to happen in the United States, even as long as the time scale before you die, before your kids, your grandkids, your great grandkids, that it's not going to happen. We're not even close to it. Donald Trump used to have a teenage bikini contest. He's not about to dress y'all up like the Emperor's guards in Return of the Jedi. Go to blessedbethefruit.org though. Have a good laugh at it. Pass it around. If they're really going to believe this, I'm just going to needle them forever with that. But I look like a genius by picking up blessedbethefruit.org because they're leaning into it now. I was kind of joking about it, but also in my joke, I'm pointing out at how crazy the mindset and the worldview of these people is. Then you got CBS backing her up. We interviewed her before the election in New York, after the election in Toronto. We're basically following around interviewing her all the time because she's so what? Relevant? 800-288-9227 if you have any hot opinions on that. Yeah, so they're running to interview Margaret Atwood about the book she wrote 35 years ago. You know who you don't see the media running to interview? Who's far more relevant? What about Hunter's baby mama? Huh? What do you mean? No one wants to talk to any of the hookers from Hunter Biden's videos? No one wants to interview the mother of the grandchild of the sitting president who's never met the president. The president's never met his own grandkid. Anyone going to do an interview there? No, let's go get this woman who wrote a book slandering Christians 35 years ago and act like that's the truth. You don't want to go interview the prostitute you see Hunter drag through the hallway in the hotel security cam. He's just dragging her by her leg back into the room while she's buck naked against her will. No one wants to interview her. No one wants to interview Ashley Biden about her claim that Joe Biden used to shower with her when she was a teenager and it grossed her out. No intellectual curiosity there. No lessons to be learned there. Look, I ain't even mad. These people are so ridiculous. I think they're making absolute fools out of themselves and hurting their cause. But the media, what a joke. They didn't want to interview the ex-girlfriend that said Doug Emhoff hit her. They didn't want to interview the other ladies he had an affair with. No one wouldn't wanted to find any of the little gay kids Tim Waltz was trying to herd into a gay club when he worked at public schools. No intellectual curiosity. Let's go talk to Margaret Atwood because we think that's relevant. Clowns. This is why the legacy media is dying a little bit every day, and I just can't wait for it to die fast enough. Coming up next, we're going to talk with Dr. Laura Gabayan. I said it right this time. About getting you ready for all this holiday stress coming up. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there. Welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. All right, so now we are in what is probably the highest stress part of the holidays. Once Christmas gets here and you get that done, then it's kind of rolling downhill. Not a whole lot happens in the week between Christmas and New Year's. And New Year's is actually sort of the end of the stressful part. So what do we do to manage it in the meantime? Dr. Laura G's back on. Watch this. Laura Gabayan is back on. Oh, we're doing Neil Sperry first? I'm sorry. You'll hear from Dr. Laura after we talk to Neil Sperry, because we're still doing the Christmas is for Caring, the 46th annual holiday charity fundraiser for the Denton State Supported Living Center. Neil Sperry, tell me about this garden. How big is it? And what we're asking for money for today. Thank you, Neil Sperry. It's funny to hear like a radio legend be sort of apologetic. I won't take up too much of your time. You're Neil Sperry. Take up all the time you want. You've been on radio longer than me. 214-525-2550. All right, now to Dr. G. Welcome back, Dr. Laura. So when we're dealing with stress at the holidays, you're going to take on stress. How do you get rid of stress?
Well, the first thing you have to do is realize you have it. Some people don't have stress, and they don't take it in. And some people do, and some don't, right? And then you have to take care of yourself. So I know it's kind of cliched, that term self-care, but you really do, whether it's breathing, exercising, or doing any activity of self-care. That even watching a show is self-care. You have to do it because you need to address those feelings.
So what do you think about rage rooms? Have you heard about these places you can go and they'll let you put on some protective goggles and give you a sledgehammer and let you just break a bunch of dishes and stuff?
I've heard of those, and I think if it helps, if it makes you feel less stressed, then do it. I don't know if it does, but some people it does. And like, for example, if it works to hit a pillow in your room or hit something, that's the same thing, right? But if it helps, do it.
What about punching bag? That's similar.
Same idea. If it helps, then do it. But it's letting out the energy. Feelings have a lot of energy.
Well,
and
is this a guy thing? Because guys like punching stuff, but I'm partial to breaking stuff. Because when you do the punching bag, you're not actually breaking anything, and there is something fun, just inherently fun about breaking stuff. And so I'm leaning more toward the rage room than the punching bag.
It is a guy thing. I mean, even crying is something women do more of, and crying is for letting go of feelings. And a man may like to break things, a woman may like to cry. So either way, you need to get rid of those feelings.
Yeah, I don't cry, though. That's not a thing men do. We're not capable of such things.
You are, but you don't like to do it. So you are, though.
All right, Laura, thank you for joining us. How do they find you outside of WBAP?
So I wrote a book, Common Wisdom, and I have a website, lauragabayan.com.
Gabayan, lauragabayan.com. Thank you very much, Dr. Laura.
Thanks for having me.
The guy that wrote the song Self-Care, Mac Miller, he ended up ODing, so I don't know if you want to take his advice on self-care. 800-288-9227 if you want to be a part of the show. Coming up next, we're going to talk a little bit more about what we've learned from the United Healthcare CEO shooter, Luigi Mangione. Coming up on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Yeah, let's go. Now, what a crazy news week we have. More information is being learned by the hour on the United Healthcare CEO killer, allegedly, reportedly, suspect, whatever you want to say. Just don't sue me. Dr. Vince Callahan is a mental health expert. Now that we've read, this guy's manifesto and some of his social media posts and heard from some friends and family, is this guy just a crazy person, Vince?
Well, we don't use the word crazy in the field, but he definitely has some mental health issues. One of the things that nobody's talking about, this guy used a suppressor. Being someone who's a gun enthusiast, I know that it takes about 18 months to get a suppressor. So he was planning something for a while. You'd have to logically think about that.
Does it really take? I had no idea it takes 18 months to get a suppressor. You can't go online and buy it from a private guy selling it and get it from a private seller?
You have an ATF stamped, and you have to have background checks at the federal level, and it takes approximately 18 months, and you can't buy them off the street. They are very regulated, and they take a while to get one.
Wow, that's like the same rules as an actual machine gun.
Yes.
Okay.
It is.
Well, I can get the sound bites a lot faster than 18 months. Okay, so when we see a guy like this, I have a feeling that there's not a whole lot of Ted Kaczynski type guys out there, but there's a lot of people who are sort of halfway to that level. There's people that are sort of existing on the brink, and sometimes they get triggered or pushed over the edge. Do we have any idea of what could have pushed this guy over the edge?
Well, I'll say this from a mental health perspective. There's actually about 60 million Americans who have a diagnosis of mentally ill, and of that 60 million, about 9 million are severely mentally ill, like this guy would be, who's capable of doing this kind of violent thing. And of that 9 million, maybe 100,000 actually get help. So it's not that common. There's a lot of people running around that see things and hear things that aren't there. And we don't know why those guys write their things and do their things and have no conscience, but they're severely mentally ill. So, yeah, there's a bunch out there.
Yeah, that's another observation a lot of people have made. The fact that he was so calm and cool and collected, having to rack his gun between shots and just dealing with the situation while he's taking a guy's life, that leads them to think he's a sociopath or maybe a psychopath. Is that a fair assessment?
Absolutely. That's a very fair statement that he has no guilt or remorse. And, the public's making this out to you. Well, it was a CEO of a major health thing, and they are a conglomerate and worth all these billions of dollars. That has nothing to do with anything. This guy, this was a dad, this was a husband, this was somebody who had a life, and somebody came and shot him and didn't have any conscience regarding it. And so we can't put somebody's life in the money category. That just doesn't work.
Well, people talk a lot about copycats. What's the risk of someone being a copycat off of this guy?
Pretty high, I would think, especially with where our culture is and what we've trained our kids. Unfortunately, this is kind of one of my little soapboxes. We trained our kids to play video games that have gore and death and shooting and all that kind of stuff. So this guy, what was he, 26? So he's grown up, probably playing some level of video game, probably the ones that have no conscience attached to them. And what it did in his brain. And here we go. So, yeah, I think we could see many copycats of this.
Well, I don't know if I buy the video game argument, because I grew up playing Pac-Man, and that means in adulthood that I would end up in some dark room listening to electronic music, taking pills, and that's never mind, bad example. Let's forget I said that. So when we are trying to assess where does this guy go, is he going to go to regular jail or is he going to go to a mental health facility?
Well, it depends on whether or not they do a full psychiatric exam and find him deemable for or cognizant to be able to stand trial. If they do, he goes to prison for life. If not, he'll go into a psych ward for the rest of his life. Either way, he's going away somewhere. And he'll never get out.
Are these people recognizably needing help to the people around them, or that they get caught off guard? Can you tell if someone in your family is at this level of mental illness?
Sometimes you can because they just start doing weird things. They don't take care of themselves and they do things that are just a little bit strange. And that's one of the problems that we have in our society is that we don't tell somebody, hey, I think my cousin Vinny here's got a problem. We just kind of let it go. But unless you're really trained to see what you're looking at, which is the first step, you've got to get a suspected person some help. You got to get them looked at by somebody that knows what they're doing and say, yeah, I think we've got a problem here. We've got to get some meds going and get some professional help in here.
All right. Well, I'm going to ask you the same question I'm asking the callers for the next segment, because I'm getting a lot of chirping in the background here. People send me Facebook messages and emails. They're skeptical about this situation because they think it's too perfect that this guy, after he murders the CEO, would go hang around in public at a McDonald's and eat in the dining room instead of taking it to go. And then also here it is a week later, he's still carrying around the gun. He's got a manifesto on him. He's still carrying the fake ID, all this stuff linking him to the crime. And my only answer for that is, well, clearly he's crazy. So no, he's not going to follow the same, path that you would to try and get away with it. He probably doesn't even think he did anything wrong. Are you a skeptic on this situation?
No, I'm with you on it. I think that the guy is probably extremely mentally ill, and he doesn't think he did anything wrong. And so he's probably been planning this for a while, and he's probably even walked through the steps of how to do it. And he just went and did it, and then he went and sat down and had a hamburger because in his mind he did whatever those voices told him to do to take care of such person. So there's no conscience. That makes him the psychopath, sociopath guy. There's no guilt or remorse. There's no anything. I'm just going to have a cheeseburger.
Dr. Vince Callahan, did he want to be caught?
I don't think he was aware that he could be caught.
Like, they just think they're above the fray?
Yeah, I'm not going to get caught. I didn't do anything wrong. And so what? I've got a gun and I'm going to, go to McDonald's. But I don't think he was aware of, oh, my God, I just killed somebody. I need to go hide. I don't see that at all in this whatsoever.
Well,
I see the opposite.
You have decades as a counselor. If someone had brought this guy to you, months ago, could you have turned him around?
I would have either got him to a doc and got him on some meds, or I would have put him in the hospital.
Wow. Fair enough. All right, Dr. Vince Callahan, how do they find your work outside WBAP?
drvincecallahan.com.
Easy as it gets. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. And thank you for the silencer info. You're a doctor. I'm not supposed to get gun knowledge from you, but I got it. So thank you very much. What do you think? Because I know a lot of you are skeptics. I'm not going to make fun if you call in. I'm not going to be like, oh, you're a silly conspiracy theorist. You're at Alex Jones. You're off your rocker. Are you skeptical? Because I looked at you're making some good points. It is not logical that a guy who's trying to get away with murder, someone who just murdered someone last week, is going to be walking around with all this evidence on him. He's not going to get rid of the gun. Well, then why go to the problem of making a ghost gun? Why did they go to the problem of putting a silencer on it? You're going to carry around a manifesto with you, linking you to the crime. You're going to have the fake ID and you're going to show it to cops. You could show them your real ID. They don't know who you are. You would probably got away with it if you hadn't. I don't know. There's a lot of questions around it. I understand. I want to hear from you. If you're a skeptic, let me hear from you right now. 800-288-9227. Do you think this is the guy that did it? Do you think there's something bigger here? Do you think there's maybe a conspiracy? Let's hear it next. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. It's Christmas time, and that means WBAP, for the last 46 years, we're going to continue this tradition, is doing Christmas for Caring, hosted by the great Neil Sperry for the Denton State Supported Living Center. Neil, when we get past the presents for the 371 adults, now we're working on making their life outside of the Christmas time just a little bit better, and we're starting with a garden. So, Neil, is this how Callaway got involved? Callaway Nurseries, do they have something to do with that garden? And is that why they're the drop-off location for our presents? Oh, it's going good. All right, thank you very much, Neil Sperry. 214-525-2550. All right, all you people on hold, hang on. Let me give you my skepticism about this Luigi Mangione being the killer, because there's a lot of weird things. I'll grant you that. I'm not buying into the conspiracy theory yet that he didn't do it. But there's some weird stuff going on. I think he just might be a crazy person, but it does not make logical sense. I will grant you, skeptics and conspiracy theorists, it does not make logical sense why this guy would commit a murder last week and still be running around with all the evidence to the crime on his person while he's eating in public. But I attribute that to he's crazy, or maybe he wanted to be caught. Here's where I definitely admit something's weird and I want to dig in. Matt Walsh posted on Facebook earlier today, you know, the guy who did Am I Racist and What is a Woman? He says, it's amazing how much we already know about Luigi Mangione just within a few hours of his arrest. Meanwhile, we've still learned almost nothing about Thomas Crooks, the man who managed to evade the Secret Service in a near fatal attempt on Donald Trump's life more than 5 months ago. That is an undeniable criticism. Yeah. On top of that, we don't know Jeffrey Epstein's list. Ghislaine Maxwell's is just in prison. She still knows all the people. No one puts a microphone in front of her and just say, hey, give me a few names. No one. We've seen most of this guy's diary too, Luigi's diary, but none of the trans person who shot up the Nashville Christian School. We still don't know who the pipe bomber is in D.C. on January 6th. But we know so much about this guy. All right. You know what, conspiracy theorists, if they're going to give you enough fuel and be this shady and skeptical and sketchy when it comes to their reporting and their intellectual curiosity, I have no criticism for you if you don't believe anything they say. Let's go to Paul in Dallas. You're on WBAP. What do you think?
I think he had the doctor on there, and he was saying, he was almost like diagnosing him over the phone. But I don't think anybody's realizing this kid graduated from his high school valedictorian, and he went to an Ivy League college. And of course, he more than likely he got indoctrinated because, his manifesto is talking about how capitalism is so horrible. And this kid comes from a wealthy family. So, I mean, he enjoyed everything about capitalism, but he was indoctrinated. And I believe the reason he was carrying that stuff, that's a trophy. He felt justified in doing what he was doing. He had some back surgeries. There were some major medical issues with himself, and I'm sure, just dealing with insurance, he probably thought, this is my pedestal I'm going to stand on. And so, that was his trophy he was carrying around.
Psychopaths do like to brag about their misdeeds and how they get away with stuff, and that's a big part of how they get caught. Yeah, you're not wrong on that.
So I was just kind of this whole thing, and they're going to let us. I'm sure they have information about the guy who tried to assassinate President Trump. They just don't want anybody to know that. They absolutely want everybody to know this. So there's something going on. There's a distraction. Everybody look over the trees, and there's probably something behind this too.
Well, I hope we get to the bottom of that mystery, but we've already gotten to the bottom of this one almost. And I mean, just think about how much more we know about this guy. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, thank you very much, Paul. Let's do Randy in Frisco. You're next up on WBAP. What do you think?
Hey, so I've been seeing some flags, a lot of dots. I've been trying to connect, and some stuff happening on social media.
Okay.
So, really, to be honest, I think this kid was probably finessed. He was probably brought over on some certain channels he had access to, maybe Discord, some secure.
Well, the medium doesn't matter. You're describing what happened to Lee Harvey Oswald too. Lee Harvey Oswald was a guy who, was a communist sympathizer, went to Moscow. They kicked him out because he was too weird for the Soviet Union. He had
too weird for the CIA.
Exactly. There you go. Okay, we're on the same page. Just make sure everyone else is along with us.
For the CIA in Vietnam. So, I'm like, when I found that out as an adult, I'm like, okay, that makes perfect sense. So, the way my mind is seeing these things is I can almost guarantee, I can't guarantee you, it would not surprise me, do your own research if this kid was not finessed, and that this whole thing about him being just found at some weird McDonald's.
Yeah.
The person that finessed him was at McDonald's and had a date with him to retrieve some of that stuff to take care of it for him, and told a person there, hey, this person's going to be here. You need to call the cops. I'm pretty sure this guy is the guy they're looking for. It would not surprise me if that were part of the case. I don't know if the person at McDonald's would cop to that or not. It's just very strange. They would recognize it because the dude looked like a homeless dude. Didn't even look like the same guy. And then the thing is that I've heard on social media is that the CEO of United, they had a data breach or something back in 2021, and they ended up using Palo Alto to do their restoration and recovery from that data breach and all of the stuff that needed to take place. And supposedly they had a conversation with Nancy Pelosi before they went with Palo Alto to do that, and she made $11.4 million on stock trades before Palo Alto was announced as that. So,
all right, this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. This is what I wanted to hear. I appreciate it, Randy. I have nothing to push back against that. You very well may be right. Your grandfather was in the CIA. What do you know that I don't know?
Hopefully nothing.
Yeah, right. Or they'll come get us. All right. Thank you very much. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I also find it almost humorous that we have all of these law enforcement officials. We have the marshals, the FBI, CIA, state police, local police, sheriffs, all looking for this guy. And who catches him? A McDonald's employee? Also in Syria, like Obama was trying to overthrow Assad because he crossed the red line, and Israel's been trying to do it for a while here, and the CIA's been trying to, they had $1 billion to try and overthrow Assad, and it was done by a few dozen guys in Toyotas with guns that are bolted to the bed. That's what it took. That's so weird. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, it's around the holidays that some people do some things that are out of the norm, including baking. Some of you ladies, you don't bake the other 11 months a year, and it shows. No, I'm just kidding. My next guest here to help break down some of that is Maria Baradell. She's an expert on home baking, and jokes aside, actually, home bakery seem to be rising a little bit in popularity. I have some friends who are trying to convince my wife, Miss Parker, that she needs to start making her own bread and not buying it at the store. Hi, Miss Parker. You've probably seen a lot of this. Is homemade bread like a new trend?
Yes, that's right. Thank you so much for having me. And yes, home bakeries are thriving because people want fresh, personalized baked goods, especially during the holidays. And, you know, in a survey I conducted with Pulfish, 86% of people who have bought from a home bakery said they plan to do so again this season. So it's not just about the food, it's about offering something personal and really meaningful during the holiday season.
Right. And so my wife is in this intermediate step where she doesn't buy bread that's made by the bread company. She now buys the bread that's made at the grocery store, and they just put in a clear plastic bag. Is that any better than the factory bread?
I think it's about the same. They still have preservatives and a lot of other ingredients to make it last longer and stay fresh longer. So I think that it's better if she were to either bake it herself or buy from a home baker or a local baker.
So what's the most popular baking item around this time that you have the most questions about?
Yeah, so on that survey that we ran, it was actually cookies, which is like surprising, but typically, you know, people offer sourdough bread and sourdough bakes like scones are really popular around this time of year, and, you know, muffins and that kind of thing.
Does anybody really like fruitcake?
I don't know. I certainly do not. But yeah, I guess some people do.
Well, see, my brother-in-law's dad says he likes fruitcake, and I'll get him a fruitcake at Christmas and Christmas time only, but I never actually see him eat it. So I don't know if this is just a habit he got into because, you know, his wife got one every Christmas before she passed away, and he's just keeping the tradition going. Like, I'm a pig. I like almost everything, and fruitcake is just meh for me.
Yeah, it's true. I just think it's like a tradition, and there are a lot of things and flavors that we have around the holidays that are probably not everybody's favorite.
Yeah, well, the other baking trend that I see, not just in my family, but with close friends, is they're having to accommodate people with sugar or gluten issues. What are some good substitutes if you have to deal with someone with a gluten intolerance or you have diabetics in your family? What do you use for substitutes like that?
Some people use like rice flour or different kinds of flours. There is a flour that is 1-to-1 substitute of wheat flour, so that would be a good thing to use if you have if you're celiac or if you have a gluten intolerance.
All right, so what would you recommend if you're an experienced baker and you're looking for a new challenge? What do you recommend for those?
Yeah, so for what? For like growing your bakery or for...
Well, it's Christmas time and you want to show up with something cool at the family Christmas party. What are all the cool kids baking these days?
Well, definitely sourdough bread, I think. It's a skill you have to master, but it's not that hard. I think that everybody should learn how to make sourdough bread. And it's one of those traditions that are like from forever, but it's really coming back. And I think it's because of social media and Instagram and TikTok is really putting all these content creators are putting content out there about sourdough bread. And I also think that home bakeries are growing because of online marketplaces like Temu, for example, that make it really accessible for people to start their own home bakeries. So that's making it be more prominent. And so I think that sourdough is a trend that is here to stay.
Well, that's what you're kind of known for. You went viral for making a sourdough on an airplane. You flew from here, Dallas, to Barcelona. How did you pull that off? You just do anything you want if you're in first class?
I guess so. Well, I was actually traveling economy, and that's actually what made it even more crazy. So what I did is that you are not supposed to travel with more than 3 ounces, right? I needed, I don't know, like 9 ounces of starter, my sourdough starter, but I divided it in 3 containers. So that's how it got past security. And also I had a bag of flour, and flour looks like a suspicious white substance. So they did check my bag before I got on the plane, but I passed the test. So,
they're like, oh, it's just cocaine. Go ahead and go through. At least you're not going to be baking. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So everything passed the test, and then I made sure not to bother anybody while I was making it, and I was very careful, and I had disinfecting wipes and hand sanitizer, but people had all their opinions about whether I should be making bread on the plane or not. And well, it just went viral from there.
Were you able to actually bake it?
No. So
Okay.
making sourdough bread is a very lengthy process. So I just mixed it and kneaded the dough. And then once I got to my sister's house in Barcelona, we baked it.
Well, I like to eat dough. Is there any caution I should have about that? Because people are like, you get salmonella, you're eating a raw egg product. Forget that. I like eating dough.
Yeah, you should not eat raw flour. That's just not okay. But I guess people do like cookie dough.
All right. Where do they find you online if they want to get more baking tips, Maria?
Yeah, they should check out my Instagram page. It's Live and Love Co. Live and Love Co. And that is because I love plants and I love bread. So Live and Love Co.
How'd you get started in this?
Yeah, so I became obsessed making sourdough bread for me and my family, and I wanted to learn so much more about it. So I started practicing every day, and I was making more bread than my family could eat. So I just started gifting it to neighbors and friends, and they loved it so much that they wanted to buy it from me so I could make more. So I just decided to start, selling it. And every week after week, I started selling out and growing my business like that. And what really made me take off on social media was the two-pan method of baking that I popularized, because to bake sourdough bread, you need to bake it in a Dutch oven, which is like a very heavy cast iron pot. That those are expensive, they are bulky, and I figured out how to bake 12 loaves of bread in each of my 2 double wall ovens. So 24 at one time versus 2 or 4 at one time in my oven. So a lot of home bakers are now using my techniques to bake so that they increase their production and they can make more money in less time.
All right. If you're looking for a sourdough bread taster, give me a call. This is Maria Baradell. You can find her online at Leaf and Loaf Co. Thank you very much, Maria.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a great day.
You too. Coming up next, I see these great videos of people booby trapping packages on their porch to get porch pirates. Should that be allowed? Some people say that should be illegal. Some innocent person could come by and be harmed by this. Oh, really? Explain to me how booby traps for porch pirates are wrong. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. And this week, we're promoting something that is not just good for the people on the receiving end, it's good for the souls of the people who are doing the giving when it comes to Christmas is for Caring. Neil Sperry is hosting for the 45th year out of 46th annual Christmas is for Caring. And where are we at now, Neil Sperry? Thank you very much, Neil Sperry. 214-525-2550. Is anybody going to shed a tear if there's a booby trap and someone gets hurt from it, and a porch pirate? Now, what if someone booby trapped a box on their porch with the intent of hurting a porch pirate, but some kid came along just seeing if your kid was wanting to play and he got hurt by it? What do you think of that? See, that's the concern when we have this discussion. Now, I think it's hilarious to booby trap your packages for porch pirates. Just be sure to tell your kids or the neighborhood kids or whatever. Or look, if no one comes and visits, just booby trap it. Here's what I'm asking, though. If you're going to do that, make sure you get some video of it and make me see it, because I just find that so delicious. When bad people doing bad things suffer negative consequences, I don't care if it hurts them. I don't care if it blows up and, oh, my goodness, and, and now they're bleeding, or, they had a concussion because they fell and hit their head. Too bad. In fact, I think this is one of the more effective deterrents is booby trapping packages for porch pirates. And look, the video is key for my entertainment, but I don't have to see it. I like the guys that I hear stories about people putting poop in a box, whether they do it themselves or they just, when they poop or scoop their yard, leaving that in the box for porch pirates. And then you don't see them hurt themselves, but you have the satisfaction of knowing whenever they get home and open that up, they're just going to get a bunch of dog squeeze. So I find that hilarious. AC/DC, the Power Up Tour, comes to AT&T Stadium on April 14th with special guest The Pretty Reckless. For more information and tickets, go to livenation.com, or you can text POWER to 800-288-9227 for your chance to win tickets. That's POWER to 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. This has been The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.